Hey guys, Crypto Sunday, red week, about 5,000 down this week, but some pretty good news. So I'm not too bothered about the down. I'm getting sort of fairly bullish and maybe looking to sort of buy a bit more, well, maybe not crypto itself, but certainly options on the miners. Sort of less keen on the smaller tokens at the moment. Still, kind of still eyeing up whether to sell off some of my smaller coins. But yeah, let's get to the news. So the big news of the week is the Grayscale SEC are not appealing, basically. So the big news of the week is Grayscale. The SEC are not appealing. They had until Friday to launch their appeal, whether this was going to be with the Supreme Court or whoever, and they've just let it go. So yeah, they did come out and say that they would not be appealing. So the sort of obviously the bullish people are just saying that this is automatically going to get put through, and probably all of the other ETFs. I'm not quite sure I would go that far just yet. They still have the option of rejecting this for another reason different than they had before. That would seem sort of petty and vindictive towards the space to sort of reject it for one reason, not give the second reason, and then when the first one gets rejected, you just reject it for the second reason. I think the courts would have something to say about that, and certainly Grayscale would sue again, but just all gets, put back in time. But whether other people are sort of just fatigued and not wanting to invest, not sure, or if they believe it may still not go through for whatever reason. The price hasn't really gone anywhere. It's up to 27,000 on Bitcoin, but yeah, we'll have to see. So yeah, they didn't argue it. Courts are saying it was arbitrary and capricious to allow futures ETFs and not this. So yeah, the courts really do seem on side at the moment. So pretty good. And then more big finance getting involved. So JP Morgan, sort of long-standing critic of all things crypto, although they have always said the underlying blockchain technology has a future, and they did sort of launch their own coin, JPM coin, I believe, and they're now sort of getting involved in tokenization, which a lot of people have been saying would be a sort of hugely bullish case for Ethereum, really. So they've tokenized BlackRock shares and sort of done a little transaction with Barclays, sort of allowing tokenized BlackRock shares to be lodged as collateral. So they have their own Onyx blockchain, which is based on Ethereum. Obviously, Ethereum being open source, they have sort of copied that. How much they've changed it, we won't really know, but I wouldn't imagine they're going to be sort of using the main Ethereum code all that much. They've probably changed it quite a lot, and they're just calling it Ethereum based. I can't imagine they're going to use Ethereum as gas or Ether as gas anytime soon as well. So yeah, whether this, it looks good for the space because they've sort of forked Ethereum rather than just starting from scratch. But yeah, I can't see this is going to get any real adoption for ETH itself. But it's just an endorsement and sort of legitimizes the crypto space in general and the idea of tokenizing assets. So whether other institutions will want to sort of do this themselves with their own blockchains, or whether they'll do it on, actually on chain and using sort of current chains is remains to be seen. But exciting to see. Similar to JP Morgan, really, with MasterCard, their central bank digital currency pilot with the Reserve Bank of Australia. They've been sort of getting involved in wrapped CBDCs on Ethereum and sort of NFTs and all sorts. We sort of know MasterCard was sort of getting kind of involved, part of their broader strategy under their multi-token network initiative launched earlier this year, which I covered. So yeah, as a test bed for developing live pilot applications and use cases within financial institutions, fintechs, and central banks. So again, this could be taking business away from the main chains and sort of be putting it on their multi-token network. Again, they're sort of saying that it's sort of partly on Ethereum, but again, I can't see Ethereum being actually used as sort of gas fees and that sort of thing if this really gets going. But another endorsement, as I say. This was kind of inevitable, I think, if you had, leveraged 2x Bitcoin futures and you had Ethereum futures now. You've got a short futures. I think there is already there's been short Bitcoin futures for quite a while. So, yeah, short ETF for Ethereum launched on ProShares. This will kick off on October the 16th. So whether that's going to, get people sort of shorting ETH, seems not the ideal time to be shorting ETH at the moment, but maybe it still has a little way to go down. But yeah, if the Bitcoin ETF is sort of going to get approved within the next few months at least, then you'd expect Ethereum to be following. So I'm sure people could be potentially losing a bit of money. And you got James Seyfarth, one of the sort of go-to analysts at the moment, covering all things sort of crypto ETFs, saying that he expects a spot Ethereum ETF to maybe go live in sort of Q2 2024. So if we get a Bitcoin one maybe early next year or sort of possibly late this year, then they might back down and allow a spot Ethereum one sort of Q2, maybe sort of May, June time, a little bit after the Bitcoin halving. So that could potentially be a pretty nice time to have some money go into Ethereum. So all good news. So you've got the long-term holder supply going up at the moment by 50,000 Bitcoin a month, which is sort of presumably good news. I'm not quite sure I would go as far as to say long-term holders are scooping up Bitcoin. This doesn't necessarily mean people are buying Bitcoin. It could just mean sort of people who've held it on exchanges are withdrawing it from exchanges. They haven't actually bought, or people who have held it for sort of 3-4 months have just continued to hold it and are now classed as a long-term holder. I think the sort of headline immediately jumps to the lines going up, so people are buying Bitcoin. Obviously, if they've just bought Bitcoin, then they wouldn't be classed as a long-term holder necessarily. But yeah, I do think these sort of chain analysis and Glassnode and people do cause others to jump to conclusions a little bit, which I'm sure they're happy with because it gets the news. But yeah, if you hold for more than 155 days, you are classed as a long-term holder. But as I say, that could be the line going up for a number of different reasons. It doesn't necessarily mean people are buying 50,000 coins a month, but it's good to see, whichever reason it is, they're all sort of fairly good. It means people aren't sort of dumping onto exchanges in sort of fear of things going down and wanting to sell. It's people holding for the long term, even if it is just short-term holders being reclassified as long-term holders. That is sort of good news because it means supply is off the market for now at least. Again, I do think people sort of class this as the long-term holder supply as sort of Bitcoin that is never going to come back onto the market, and that's not necessarily the case. If Bitcoin goes up $20,000, you could easily see a huge amount of this Bitcoin sort of people think, right, I'm up 40-50%, I'll take some off the market. So people sort of think this has gone, it's off the market all the way up to the top of, $100,000, $200,000, and that's why it would go up, and these people would never sell. But yeah, not real. They also count people like myself as, because I've held since 2013 a lot of my Bitcoin. A lot of people actually class me as either lost my password or dead. So over 5 years, if you've held, a lot of people count you as essentially dead or lost your password, where I would imagine there are an awful lot of people who have just sort of patiently held and, would be there to sell at sort of 100,000 or maybe a bit more. So yeah, take that with a pinch of salt whenever you see that. And lastly, hot off the heels of last week's news with Mercedes and Nissan, was it, or Honda, accepting sort of various crypto as payments for their cars through their sort of payment provider that they were using, Ferrari has jumped on board and said they will be accepting payment for their luxury cars in the US, and they will extend it to Europe following requests from its wealthy customers. They're sort of saying, even acknowledging that some people have made their money and sort of made the money available to buy a Ferrari through crypto. So they're happy to accept it as payment rather than sort of wanting people to sell first and then buy. But differently to the Mercedes news last week, they are using BitPay from the looks of it, and sort of more importantly, prices will not change, no fees and no surcharges if you pay through crypto, where last week you had, I believe they were saying 2% transaction fee, which is pretty poor. So if you're buying a $200,000 car, you're going to pay $4,000 in fee just to buy it, where bank transfer you'd expect to be what we maybe do we call it a chaps payment in the UK, so sort of £25, similar to if you're buying a house. But yeah, that was I thought pretty good news. No surcharges or anything to buy a Ferrari. Admittedly, this is with I think they're saying Bitcoin, Ethereum, and that's about it. You're not, last week it was buying a Mercedes with Floki and sort of Doji New, all these sort of dodgy meme coins and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's maybe a little bit better news for Ferrari. They sort of go the slightly more classy route. But yeah, I thought that was good. So coins for the week is basically what's down and by how much. Of course, sort of a £5,000 loss. It's just going to be red across the board for the most part. Bitcoin down 2.95%, Ethereum 3.8%, Solana 5.5%. That's one of the worst ones. Chainlink 3.4%, Cardano 2.6%. XRP down 6%. Power Ledger actually up 10.5%, although it does do that sometimes. It's sort of fairly illiquid and could be sort of, break even or down by tomorrow. So see where that goes. Audius is flat, which is pretty good considering Solana. Quant down 1.3%, Matic down 7%, that's the worst of the week. Basic Attention Token up 2.3%, so not too bad there. Gala down 5%, VeChain down 1.9%, and Internet Computer is up 4.4%. So I've been sort of looking at potentially selling that, and sort of would get a little bit of tax loss harvesting back. As I say, not this £1,500. I just haven't adjusted that, but I would get a little bit back, and potentially sort of put that into my CleanSpark options on Interactive Brokers. The market cap for Internet Computer has actually increased sort of a little bit more than the token, because their inflation rate is quite high. So where I sort of keep thinking, the token's dropped a little bit, so now it's a potentially higher return in the bull market, it may not necessarily be, because the market cap is sort of larger than I thought. That's the problem with these sort of heavy inflation rates. You do have quite an inflation with Solana, but yeah, Internet Computer just sort of seems especially bad. So potentially sort of thinking, if it were to, I'm looking at 18x on CleanSpark. If it does what I'm hoping, this would put Internet Computer at sort of $25 billion market cap, which they're sort of, they say a lot on Twitter about what they're doing and how things are looking great, but yeah, I'm not sure I can see sort of $25 billion market cap from what they're sort of currently doing, or what they, if you even had adoption now and it was sort of looking good for the future, then I'd be a bit happier. But I don't really see a lot of when you look at daily active users and sort of the comparison sites, Token Terminal sort of don't have them, and DeFi Llama and that sort of thing. They don't get any coverage anywhere, and you don't sort of see any real positive stats unless you look at their dashboard, which is you'd prefer it to sort of come from a third party. So yeah, it's only 600 quid, but yeah, I'd feel bad if it sort of sold it and it rocketed up, but I am sort of considering just selling that off and putting it into CleanSpark options, which have a bit of risk, of course, but it's a bet on sort of the path that crypto takes. I'm sort of fairly confident that it should go to sort of 75, I guess, to 100,000 or more in the next sort of year or two. It's just the path that it takes. If it drops to 20,000 or 15,000, if we get a recession, then CleanSpark could potentially run into issues and sort of maybe have to sell some stuff off or dilute a huge amount, and then maybe it means Bitcoin does go to 100,000, but CleanSpark doesn't do that well. So that's the risk, but as long as it sort of doesn't do that, then I could see potentially a sort of 15 to 20x on CleanSpark, and I sort of feel a bit more confident with that than certainly things like Internet Computer and VeChain, and maybe even sort of Gala token. So been saying this for a little while, but I might be doing it soon. So yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments below and like and subscribe. See you soon.